communication is clear and concise. You could consider voice or video conferencing to help recreate in-person conversations. In the current environment, priorities are always changing, sometimes very quickly, so it's important you consider how, when, and the frequency you will touch base with your team. You can contact them by telephone or video call, email, or through some other form of messaging. Think about what time of day you will contact them and whether it will be on a daily or weekly basis. Consider the type of conversation needed. Will you have one-on-one with individuals, full team meetings, or something in between? Schedule some time at the beginning of the call for everyone to check in with each other before moving on to work issues. Set an agenda and rules of engagement for the meeting. It is also important to give everyone an opportunity to speak, but don't allow people to speak over one another. Remember, people's working hours can be flexible too. You and your team don't just have to work from 9 to 5. You should be mindful of your team members who are caring for their children or the elderly and enable them to work around these responsibilities. Ensure everyone understands the changes to business and what is expected of them. Delegate tasks, set clear timeframes, trust your team to complete their work and then give them as much clarification and feedback as they need. Keep records of what each team member is working on, and if you discuss this over the phone, you might like to follow up with an email of what was agreed. You should also ensure to follow up with staff members in relation to the tasks they are completing. Encourage your team to share their thoughts and input in implementing changes. This will help their morale and give them a sense of ownership and purpose in a time of great uncertainty. There are a number of policies in place to assist staff working from home. These include the ICT Acceptable Usage Policy, Internet Content Policy, Data Protection Act, Freedom of Information Act, HR Code of Conduct, and Official Secrets legislation, among others. Remember, your own usual responsibilities as a manager remain in place. Continue to take care of yourself at this time, and remember the support systems available to you and your team, such as your own line manager, HR, and employee assistance. Schedule time to speak with your manager for updates, preferably before calls with your team. Peer-to-peer support for yourself and other managers is important, so think about the colleagues you could link up with to touch base and share ideas of what is working and what perhaps isn't. You may also have colleagues who aren't enabled to work remotely. Reach out to them and agree on how you will keep in touch. This is uncharted water, so remember to be open. We are all working in new situations and you aren't always expected to have the answers. If you don't know something, say so. Remember to be present and be calm. In relation to working arrangements and health and safety, it's important that you keep up to date with guidance from your local HR, Department of Public Expenditure and Reform, the HSE and the Department of Health. For your own safety, please keep your own working area and equipment clean and hygienic. Keep following the latest HSE medical guidance on social distancing, hand washing, coughing and other hygiene etiquette. Please see the links in the description below for the latest information on the response to COVID-19 and for employee assistance supports. All of us, including you and your team, need to continue to provide excellent customer service in this extremely difficult time for our country. Public services are still required and are now more important than ever.
Being on a virtual team and working remotely can present unique challenges that aren't faced by team members who are co-located. Whether in another office location or at home, there are no managers or other teammates sitting nearby to consult with or provide immediate responses or support. Likewise, there's no one looking over your shoulder, keeping you focused and on task. One of the challenges when working
Hi everyone. Good afternoon, good morning from I don't know where you're joining us from. We're very excited to have you all here today. Today is the 5 of the Eco Business Capacity Building Program by Waster Create in collaboration with the MasterCard Foundation. We're really excited to have you all here. Please sit back, relax. For some of us who are joining us for the first time, kindly do well to introduce yourself on the chat. The chat is there for you to network and meet new people. So please, we'd like to know who you are, where you're joining us from. And also, probably if you want to share a fun fact about you, I think you can do that on the chat. Please kindly do that, and we'll kickstart the training in approximately 3 minutes. Thank you.
May seem attractive, but a local that attends working remotely, even in another office, can be isolating. Virtual teams miss out on the informal, everyday interactions that co-located teams often take for granted.
Hello, just checking in to confirm that Chichi is still on the call. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. I cannot seem to hear Waste or Create. Is anyone here?
Yes, please. We are here.
All right.
Thank you all so much for joining once again to the Eco Business Capacity Building Program. We have come a long way. I cannot believe that today is day 5 of our long 9 days training. I really appreciate those of us who have stayed tuned with us from day 1 all up to day 5. Welcome you back. So much has happened in the past.
The actual business model is simply, working around how I'm going to make money at the end of the year, right? How I'm going to
training sessions
continue
on our YouTube channel at Secular Place. So please do and go there to catch up.
empower my business models to grow.
I'm a social entrepreneur and environmentalist, and the founder and managing director of the Waste to Create Hub. The Waste to Create Hub is the convener of the Secular Place initiative in partnership with the MasterCard Foundation. And today we'll have an amazing speaker and expert. I have come to know her for a long time now, and I've followed her work, and I have no doubt that you all are going to benefit from today's training. Just to give you a little bit of context around what you have missed, we had 4 different experts who have talked to us about sustainable business model. They've also spoken to us about B Corp, how to become a B certified business, be you an SME or an MSME. We also talk about eco packaging and aesthetics of sustainable packaging. If you missed out on that session, please catch up on YouTube. And yesterday we talked about fair trade, the principles of fair trade and the importance of fair trade in doing business, and the lots and lots of opportunities that come with being a certified fair trade business. And today we'll be talking about remote working structures for SMEs and MSMEs. Before I go ahead to introduce the speaker for today, I'll please encourage you all to utilize the chat to introduce yourself and tell us where you're joining us from. For those of you who do not like to interact, please know that this session would be very interactive. This is not your regular training session where we're just presenting to you and you're just assimilating all of the message. We love this to be interactive because all of these experts are highly sought after. So please take advantage of the opportunity. Ask them a lot of questions, get clarity, whatever it is you need for your business, and let's have an exciting time. I'll just jump straight to introducing our speaker for today. And her name is Fadila Ahmed. Ahmed. Fadila is a business strategist, a remote work advisor, and entrepreneur. She runs Finance Express Limited, an international business development and trade facilitation firm with leading capacity in trade brokerage, sourcing, payment advisory, international business setup, and strategy consultancy serving. She's also the founder of Africans Living Fully, a media and community platform that seeks to empower young Africans to be limitless in their pursuit of a fulfilling career and life. Fadila has 7 years of corporate and entrepreneur experience. She has worked across 4 industries in over 8 countries and has traveled to over 30 across the globe. She is a strong advocate of equal opportunities for all, future of work, social, financial and economic empowerment. As part of her core work in expanding access to digital opportunities, tools, and resources for career, business life, and growth, she trains, coaches, and consults on remote work transitions and business growth strategies for individuals and organizations. Please, we all have virtual reaction of clap. Please, let's give our experts a resounding round of applause as she kicks off the training. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, and congratulations to Waste and Create, as well as the Secular Places for this incredible event. I'm super honored to be here with you all today and to share with you on the basic, I would say, foundation of setting up a remote work structure for your business. Be you a small, micro, medium, or even a large organization, the principle is the same, it's just the number that changes. So without further ado, I am going to go straight into the topic of the day. But before I proceed, I would like us to run a poll here so I can understand the audience that we have with us today and to know what your experience is in working remotely. So please run the poll for me so I can get a few responses to the first and second question. While we're at that, the topic for today is how to build an effective remote work structure for your SMEs, for your MSMEs. So while we're waiting for the response on the poll that will soon be administered, I would like to begin by saying that remote work is different for every organization. So and I'm going to begin this presentation by diving deep into exploring what remote work is, why remote work is important, or why you should consider going remote, as well as the various key considerations that you need to pay attention to if you are trying to transition your business or your team into a remote working structure. So, please do well to respond to the first two questions. As you can see on your screen, just to give us an idea of who you are and where you are in your remote work journey. You can also definitely answer the rest of the questions as we progress with the presentation. So let's dive into it. What is remote work for a company? Now, I strongly believe that the first thing that we need to be able to understand is going remote does not necessarily mean going digital. And I say this from a place of experience because I have been working remotely for at least the past 5 years, since 2016, after I quit my job in corporate to become a freelancer and then later on a business owner, I started working remotely, but I was not digital at all. So going remote does not necessarily mean going digital, because going digital can, of course, help you to be able to go remote faster, but it's important for us to understand the difference. And in terms of remote work, what is remote work? Remote work for me is the ability to focus on productivity over presence, to focus on the ability to create value, to collaborate on a value proposition irrespective of our geographical location. And there are two types of, I would say, remote organizations. So the first type of remote organization is a fully remote company. A fully remote company does not necessarily have any physical location, head office, or representation. All of its activities, all of its teams, all of its services and its products are rendered 100% not from a physical location. Second, we have hybrid organizations. Hybrid organizations are companies that employ the use of both a physical presence and a digital or a remote presence to render their service, to engage with their team, to offer their value proposition. And like I shared earlier on, there is definitely a difference between going remote and going digital. Although going remote doesn't always mean going digital. Going digital helps you a lot, but it's not 100% required for your business. And I mean this in terms of both your service proposition and in terms of the work structure that you choose for the team that you intend to work with. Going digital doesn't always also means going remote. There are a lot of companies who are working or rendering their service digitally, but they are 100% not a remote company. They are a physical business. So it's important for us to understand the distinction. Now, moving forward, why should you, as a small business owner or a medium-sized company or even a large organization, consider going remote? And we will not be able to answer this question without actually thinking about what is making the shift. Now, you need to ask yourself, are you going remote because of the COVID-19 pandemic, or are you genuinely adapting to the future of work, whereby remote work is one of the key elements of the future of work, focusing on productivity over presence for your business structure? So the case may be different for everyone, and it's important for you to evaluate what is your motivation for going remote with your business, and does going remote align with the vision that you have for your business into the future, for the products that you are working on, for the service that you are rendering, for the team and the community and the kind of organizational culture that you want to build. It's really important that you answer this personally as a business owner or as a team member in a business. The third thing you need to ask yourself is, does this align with your values and your principle? Is this what you want for the product and the organization that you are building? Now, why do we need to ask these questions? We need to ask this question in order for us to determine if going remote is actually best for our business in the long haul and not just for the momentary time. We also need to understand that going remote does not necessarily mean that it is the only reason that you are a progressive company. You can be a progressive company even if you are not remote, depending on the service that you are rendering. If the service you are rendering is 100% physical in nature, then it means that a majority of your workforce will need to work physical, will not be able to render their service remote. However, embracing remote work will enable you to be able to I would say, benefit from some of the things that I will talk about later. So, is remote work right for your business? This is a question that we need to all answer as business owners or as leaders of organizations individually. It ultimately depends on you and the type of business and the type of organizational culture that you want to brew. So it's also important for me to highlight that all types of businesses around the world have been able to either go fully remote or combine an element of remote work into their operations and run a hybrid system. So we have seen fully remote companies like the ones you can see on the slide. We have seen hybrid organizations, large conglomerate organizations with thousands of employees scattered all over the world are now embracing a hybrid system that enables them to not just render the service that they do online, but to be able to engage and tap into the network of highly skilled people, irrespective of their geographical locations. The like of Google. One of the recent, I would say, even companies that really shocked the world in transitioning into remote work is BP Oil, which literally went remote a couple of weeks ago. This is an oil and gas company that has gone remote or has adopted remote work and now is a hybrid organization. Companies like Coinbase, PwC, all over the world, from Africa to Middle East to Asia to America, companies are going remote, and it's time for you to evaluate how going remote or whether going remote is right for your business. And like I have shared earlier on using the basic framework, you can be able to do this by asking yourself the previous questions. Now, I'm going to go back to the polls and see if we have some result, or I'm going to invite back Secular Places to share with me some of the results that you're getting from the poll. Secular Places, are you here?
Samuel, please, can you pull up the poll for Fadila?
Thank you. So I can see here that 40% of the people on this call work remotely all the time, and 60% of the people are working remotely 50%. Sorry, 50-50. So they're working remote partly and they're working in a physical space partly. I can also see here that in fact, everybody on this call sell both all of their products and render their services both online and offline. So it means that majority of the people here will be tilting towards adopting a hybrid system. So before I move on to the other answers to the poll that we have obtained, I would like to share with you some of the reasons why you may want to go remote. So for companies, I made this presentation for two people: companies who are already established and the individuals that are working in those companies. What are the benefits of your going remotely? Definitely there is the cost, but because we are here and it is Secular Places, I will start by saying that the primary reason that you would want to go remote as an eco-friendly business is really to reduce your carbon footprint. Remote work has proven, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, where we saw the pollution of air and land and sea drastically reduced in a manner in which we never even thought was possible, because people were forced to go remote. So if you are on this call and you're an eco business owner or you're an eco business leader, then that should be like one of your primary motivation to want to adopt an element of remote work into your business. Second, for sure, is the cost savings. If you're a business, you're going to save a lot of money on utility, you're going to save a lot of money on maintenance, on the real estate cost. You don't longer have to rent a very big office space or a very big shop or a warehouse in order for you to render your service. You can reduce the size and, of course, the cost of your business operations. If you're an individual, it means that you're definitely going to benefit from reducing the cost of travel. You're also not going to be having to buy literally fancy corporate attires all the time because you have to go to a physical location to work. Also, there's a mental savings. And for me, I think this is one of the biggest motivation. We are saying goodbye to micromanaging when you adopt remote work. If you are a physical business owner, you can imagine the amount of intensity it takes to actually run both the business and the team in a physical location. So adopting an element of remote work can also reduce some of the mental stress that comes with working physically all the time. Monday stress. For some people, they say, thank God it's Friday. For some people, they say, thank God it's Monday. So if you are one of those, thank God it's Friday, and you're always dreaded to go to work on a Monday, you no longer have to go to work because work is not a place. Work is a thing that we do, and remote work can help you reduce that mental stress. Also, for businesses, it allows us to be able to recruit the best talent. If you're looking for a skill, you're looking for a particular area of expertise, and you're not able to find that person within your geographical location, you can hire someone in a different country or in a different city, and that person would now have the opportunity to add value to your business because your business has adopted remote work. Also, it enables you to be able to ensure that you focus on superior service proposition or service offering as compared to only what you can find in your geographical location. Flexibility in work schedule and in places, you can choose where and when to work. You can choose the kind of lifestyle that you want to have, and you can get to spend more time with your family if you're an individual person. It doesn't stop there. The benefit of remote work transcends beyond the last 3 points. It goes into emotional well-being and supporting your growth both as a company and as an individual. As a company, it helps you support a healthier work-life balance sort of culture. It also increases trust, loyalty, and engagement if you have the right team, because they trust that you can allow them to be able to work from anywhere that they choose or from any other location without having to show up. And as individual, it also helps you to be able to enhance your work-life balance. In terms of growth, many companies, a report, I cannot remember exactly the source, but I will be sure to share that with Secular Places. But one of the reports that has been coming out over the past year, it's not just 2020, people have been working remotely since like early 2000s. It's just in this decade and particularly last year that remote work, literally everybody who never even heard about it got to know about it. But studies have shown that it increases employee productivity, and you have the ability to also expand your clientele base to new geographical locations because you have employees in those geographical locations. Companies no longer have to go and set up factories in new countries because they want to expand into the market. They can use what I call remote work service rendering platforms or approaches like e-commerce, which is one of that Secular Places is adopting to render their service to a large majority of people. The list goes on and on and on, and we cannot exhaust them in this session alone. Also, so in the nutshell, it helps you reduces your carbon footprint. There's a cost savings. It enables you to be able to attract the best talent. It enhances your mental and emotional well-being, and it also enables you to expand the impact of your work and your business by going remote. Now, at this point in time, I'm gonna go to the poll again. So please show me the result from the poll while I discuss some of the threats or the consequence that remote work poses. And it's important for businesses to be aware of these so that they can manage them in order to mitigate the risk and to enhance the effectiveness of adopting a remote work strategy. So I see here that a lot of people say that the challenge is the internet, managing their time and focusing. Okay, there are so many challenges that people are facing when it comes to remote work, and it's important for us to be aware of that. So communication is a challenge for some organizations. When they transition to remote work, work priorities are not able to be clearly communicated, and I will share with you some strategies that you can use to mitigate that risk. Lack of discipline by some colleagues or some members of the team could also arise. Tracking time. So people here on the poll said managing their time effectively. How can you manage your time? It's about prioritization. It's about clearly defining your work schedule, clearly defining your work hours, ensuring that you plan your work schedule around the time where you have higher level of energy during the day, and being disciplined to be able to ensure that you pull through what you committed yourself to do. Staying organized, because there are too many messages, too many prompts, too many groups and activities or tools you're using could also be a threat. Work-life balance. A lot of people, especially during the pandemic, were literally overworking. And it's not just during the pandemic. People like digital nomads who have been traveling around the world and working remotely for a very long time have also, some of them, experienced I would say disorientation in their work-life balance, because they feel like they're working remotely, so they're going to work all day long. In fact, I would say I would say me, because I have personally experienced this, and I continue to remind myself the essence of why I actually adopted a remote work strategy for my work and for my business, to ensure that I have a healthier balance. Now, we're going to move into the different types of businesses that can go remote, because there are some people out there who say not every business can go into remote work. That is a no. Not every business can go fully remote, 100% I agree, but almost every business in the world can go remote by adopting a hybrid system of work. And I will explain further. So let's say you're rendering a service. Your service is, what do you call it? You're running a saloon, or no, sorry, give me examples in the chat box, the different types of businesses that some of the participants here are running, so that I can give examples based on that. So while I'm waiting on that, irrespective of what you are offering, whether you're rendering a service that is physical in nature or is digital in nature, you can be able to identify roles within your business that can be able to work remotely. So team members and roles and employees, some of them, their role are not required in the operational state of the service rendering or the product production. And that means every service business can definitely go remote. Secondly, remember I said remote work is not just about having employees all over the world. It's also about utilizing remote platforms to grow your business, to expand the type of service and the revenue streams that you have for your business. So let's assume you are a mechanic. Literally, people need to bring their cars to you in order for you to render the service. But did you know that because of remote work, now you can actually begin to teach other people who want to become mechanics, or mechanics of a lower standard, or who want to learn a specific element of what you know how to do best. And it doesn't matter where they are in the world, you can be able to render your service remotely. So when I hear argument that not every business can go remotely, I literally roll my eyes. And I believe that one of the reasons why we're having this session is to broaden your perspective, not just in terms of the culture of work, but also in your revenue re-engineering, to enable you see opportunities in remote work, both in terms of managing your team and also in terms of growing your business. So it doesn't matter. I'm going to check the chat box now to see some of the, so handmade product for home and child, interior deco consultation. So let's take an example. You're an interior designer. I have an office space, or I have a home and I'm moving into a new space. Now I need you to come and design my space. Yes, you will need to physically come to design the space yourself, but there are elements of your work, like marketing your service, that you don't have to do physically. You don't have to go door to door to render that service. Designing your website, even teaching. I'm going to talk about alternative revenue streams that remote work offer for you, so that it can also help you to broaden your mind. So when we get there, I'm going to use your business as an example. So here I highlighted some alternative services that you can offer remotely when you are a physical business owner. And these applies in all industry. It doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're an interior decorator, you're a saloonist, you produce hair care products, you produce eco-friendly mats or shirts or whatever it is that you produce, you can be able to translate the experience of running a physical business into a remote product, or I would call it a digital product, not just a remote product, a digital product, and you can be able to render your service remotely using the phone, WhatsApp, emails, or digitally using platforms like ClickFunnels and websites and social media, etc. So here we go. Coaching and consulting should be a revenue stream that if you're a physical business owner, you explore as a result of remote work. Now you can be able to list yourself as a coach. There are millions of platforms that exist. We write a lot about these things on Africans Living Fully, so you can check our blog to get links to some relevant platforms that may help you to list as a coach. There are freelancing platforms that you can go to offer your service. You can also market your service within the local community that you exist, identify a group of people, offer value to them, create a WhatsApp group or a Facebook group, and coach certain people on an element that you are an expert in as a physical business owner. Secondly, online teaching and skill sharing. You can put your time into creating courses, webinars, masterclasses, etc. Online communities that can help you increase your revenue stream. You can also create membership sites or community platforms that can enable you to be able to offer value to a particular community or a target market, and at the same time be able to increase the revenue stream that you have for your business. You can be able to develop other e-products, provide services as a freelancer or as a contract staff. You can even create, like, there is no limits to the type of digital products. People are literally even singing and like literally, I don't know, what is the weirdest example I have? I can't think of one right now, but when I do, I'm gonna share with you guys. So at this point, let me know in the chat button below, what is the new type of service based on your area of expertise that you believe, based on this training, you can be able to offer to your existing customers or to a new set of customers. So I know that we are actually assimilating some of the points that I'm sharing. While we're looking forward to your comments in the chat box, we're gonna go straight into talking about the operating mindset and the principles that you need to manage an effective, sustainable, and a profitable remote business or a hybrid business. So when I say remote business, I mean it can be a fully remote, a hybrid organization, or a physical business with a little element of remote work. The first is this. So we need to understand, sorry, I'm literally not looking at my slide, but I'm coming back to them now. So we need to understand what's the difference between fully remote and a hybrid organization. So an office-based with work from home option is a type of way that you can transition into remote work. Secondly, you could also have remote teams who are based in a singular time zone. So you can have employees in, say, Ghana or in Ivory Coast, but one is in Yamoussoukro and the other one is in Abidjan. Now you can also have a worldwide fully distributed teams. That means it doesn't matter where the person is, he or she can be able to work with your business. So these are ways in which you can be able to go remote. You can also have a worldwide remote team spread across multiple time zones. So it really depends on the type of business that you run and what you seek to achieve for your business. That will determine the type of remote strategy that you adopt for your business. And let's not forget the last part, or yeah, I would say the last part, which is the remote service rendering. Please, you don't need to wait until the end of the session. If you have questions, let me know. It's supposed to be interactive and not and not like a lecture. So let me know in the chat button below what questions you have so far before we move on to the key element of this presentation, which is the key considerations and things you need to put in place in order to run a remote business, or in order for you to adopt remote work effectively in your existing business. So somebody says here that remotely we can move more of our meetings with customers online to substitute for the lack of ability to do that with our artisans. Okay, I believe this person is some artist of some sort, or they create certain types of products. All our office hours are actually home office hours, so we cut down on our carbon footprint as such. Okay, so I like to see all of these. Let me know in the chat button below what other way you believe you can generate revenue for your business, adopting remote work as an essential part of your work. Now, we're gonna move on because of time. Now, what are the things that you need to consider as a business owner, irrespective of your size, but more importantly, for now, as a small, micro, or medium enterprise, because it's way easier to adopt this strategy in your early stages of your business than it is for companies or conglomerates that have thousands of employees and millions of products or millions of customers. So please, 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 please pay attention, but more importantly, please ask questions. Let me know what questions you have based on the points that are being raised, and try to practicalize this or take notes based on your individual businesses so that it can translate into action after these particular sessions. Now, the first thing we need to talk about, or the first thing you need to consider in order for you to establish a remote work culture that is effective, that is profitable, that is healthy, and that is sustainable is this: you need to set and manage expectations. A lot of companies, we saw it in 2020, a lot of companies literally were forced to go into remote work because they had never done it before. It was literally nowhere to be found. It was not part of their culture. Even if you're an IT person, you need to show up in the office space. And when the transition happened, there was a lot of struggles. So it's important for you to engage with your team. Right now, if you're a physical business owner, or even you're a hybrid business owner, or you have adopted some element of your work, to discuss their expectations. The expectations in the first thing for you as a business owner to do is determine what roles are suitable for remote work. Remember, we said not every role or every employee can work remotely, depending on the industry. So determine the roles that are suitable for remote work. Engage with the team or the person or the department that you want to transition their role to remote, to discuss what is their expectation, what is the need, what do they need in order for them to be able to deliver the value if they don't come to the office space. What are their concerns? What are the challenges that they have? So some people, for example, in the poll highlighted internet could be a challenge that they're having. Perhaps they don't have the right tools. Perhaps they don't even know how to communicate to people if it's not physical. These are concerns that you need to document, and more importantly, you need to implement action plans or strategies to ensure that people feel empowered enough to be able to work remotely, should you decide that that's the route you're going for that particular set of roles that you have identified. It's also very important for you to clearly communicate the work expectation and the commitment required. Some people feel like because they are working remotely, they don't need to be accountable, or they don't need to work within the hours that have been stipulated. So even in your expectations conversation, you need to talk about what is the time. First, you need to consider, are your employees all in the same geographical location, or are you working with teams from multiple different countries? When should you decide to choose the time to meet? When, what is the expectation in terms of reporting, in terms of work tracking? How are you going to do that? Are they expected to answer emails every single time, or are they supposed to answer specific emails within an expected, a predetermined time frame? It's super important to discuss even the most minute things, because that will help us in order to avoid any conflict that may arise. The second thing we need to do is we need to set a standard for communication and collaboration. So you need to develop a communication guideline. How often should people communicate? When should they communicate? What platform should they use to communicate X type of project or X type of progress report? And what type of platform should they communicate X type of blah, blah, blah? Now, another thing also is how quickly do you want them to respond to essential communication? And if you say essential communication, what does essential communication means for your business? Does it mean when a customer contacts you to make an inquiry regarding the service you're offering? Or does it mean when an employee says their cat is dead and they cannot come to work? You need to define that and be explicit to that regard. In fact, I would say the foundation of remote work is over communication and ensuring that everything that is agreed on phone is also written so that you don't have conflict or blame games coming on later on. So moving forward, also as part of developing a guideline for your communication and collaboration strategy is establishing a communication plan with your customers, with your team. What are the available hours? Who are the crucial team members that are needed for X type of project or for X type of meeting? And don't try to all the time have meetings with 20, 50 people when the only decision makers are like 3 or 4 of them. Allow team members to be able to communicate together as a department so that when you're having an organizational strategy session, not everybody is involved and then it becomes a counterproductive activity. Also, what is a communication plan you have with your stakeholders? How often are you going to communicate with them? What platforms are you going to be doing? If you're going to be honoring, say, TV invitations or radio stations, who are the people in charge? Your customers, how are you going to engage with them? Is it WhatsApp? Is it calls? Do you have an online funnel of, are they going to contact you through a contact form on your website? Be explicit and train the necessary people that are needed to be able to perform this communication role effectively. Also, one-on-one meeting is still very important, not all the time team briefing. Okay, let's move on. Meetings should also be simplified. We need to be able to ensure that we respect each other's time when we're working remotely. And by doing some of the following suggestions that you see on the screen, like communicating the objective of the meeting ahead of time, sharing the schedule, ensuring that the team members who are involved in the meeting know the time. If they're in different geographical locations, they update their time and they have a shared calendar where that is done. No on-demand meetings unless there's a serious emergency. Don't call up your employees or your team members at any given point in time for every single thing. They may not be able to respond when you need them for things that are serious. Also, long meetings should be avoided. It's not necessary to have meetings unless there is something super important that a decision, a live decision needs to be made. So utilize the tools and the platforms that you have created and the channels that you have created effectively. Also, share document that you need for the meeting ahead of time so people can be well versed before they show up on the meetings. You also need to establish a project management plan. We can go deep into this, but we can't because of time. You also need to determine what tool are you going to use for your project management. Project management simply means ensuring that from the start of the project to the end of the project, and a project can be anything as simple as creating a website, managing a particular client engagement. It could also mean a social media marketing department plan for launching X type of product. What is the project management plan? What is the tools you're using? Are you using WhatsApp group? What tools are you using? We're going to talk about that in later notes. The third thing you need to consider when you want to transition into effective remote work is creating metrics for success. You cannot assume that your team knows what success means to the business. It's super, super important. So somebody says, Fadila, slow down a bit. Okay, I will slow down. Let me check my time. I just want to make sure that we are within time. Okay, we still have an hour to go, so I'll slow down. In fact, I will drink some water. Okay, guys, so the third thing you need to consider is creating a metrics. What the success means for your business. What are the key performance indicators? Set specific timelines. Evaluate how and discuss with your team members how will this particular result be measured. Focus on productivity over presence. Be able to determine. So let's give an example. Let me see. Let's assume that you're creating a customer segmentation plan and you literally created a Google Doc and added all the team members to it, and you left it empty blank and say, please contribute your take on how we should segment our customers for X type of product that we're about to launch. You didn't communicate what the goal is. You need to communicate and say something like, the purpose of these Google Doc is to ensure that by the end of today or by the end of X date, we are able to properly segment based on this category. So maybe demographic, economic, blah, 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 the types of customers we need and the ones that are currently available and they're actually looking for the service that we have, so that they don't start talking about customers that are so far out of your reach and may not be interested in your service. And that way it elongates your process of converting the customers from the beginning, from prospecting into becoming customers for your business. Does that make sense? Let me know in the chat column below. So be sure to communicate and set the standards needed for the project to be deemed successful. In doing that, it also means, or in setting our remote work plan, we also need to manage changes in compensation carefully. There are a few leaders, I would say, who think that because people are going to be working remotely, they need to quickly, like within the first few months, change the compensation plan. It's very tricky. Money is a very important element of work, and we cannot deny that. So it's important for us to be careful. What is the basis for changing the compensation of the team that we have? Is it solely because we are going remote, or is it solely, what is the motivation? It's important for us to be transparent and to be careful about how we deal in changing the compensation plan. It's also important for us to remember that compensation should be based on the quality of work, the accuracy of the work, the overall contribution to the company's team, and sometimes even the quality of work, I would say it varies. Like, it's not just about the financial contribution of the team member into the business that matters. Create and communicate clearly with your team, whether they are remote or they are hybrid, on what the basis of compensation is, so that employees who choose to work remotely, should you give that option, do not feel like they are disadvantaged because of your compensation strategy. The fifth thing you need to consider is that you need to create a budget for your remote team members. What do I mean by this? It's simple. Remote work requires a different set of tools, a different set of even mindset, a different set of requirements for people to be able to give in their best. So do your employees have their own laptops? Are you allowing them to use their personal laptop for your work laptop? Are you making provisions for that? What is the provision you're making for internet? If remote work means I can be able to work from anywhere, do I have access to the internet in where I choose to work, and how can that affect the quality of my work? What are the softwares that I need? What are the security measures that you need to put in place in order to ensure that remote work is actually done adequately? In some countries, in some cities in the United States, you're even required as a business owner to give workstation stipends if you ask your employees to work from home, or they choose to work from home based on the policy that you have. The sixth thing we need to consider, or factor that we need to pay attention to, is being very intentional about creating a culture of accountability and transparency for the business that we are building. Now, first thing first, you need someone in the business or in the company, especially if you're a medium-sized organization. If you're a small-sized organization, then you as the leader need to take that responsibility of being the person who is in charge of implementing the processes for the migration into the remote workspace. So assign a remote work champion for every department or for every element of your team. If you're a medium-sized organization and you have a HR manager, then that has to become an integral part of their work in ensuring that everyone is able to smoothly transition. You also need to assign specific responsibilities. You can't just have a meeting with people remotely and then you say, oh, X project needs to be completed, and you don't assign a person to complete that project. When you don't assign anybody, or no one is in charge, then when everyone is in charge, no one is in charge. It's as simple as that. So remote work, for it to be effective, you need to make sure that you set a culture that ensures that people take responsibility for assigned duties. And if you don't assign the duties, then don't expect that results are going to happen. Also, top level management need to be fully transparent, and they need to keep people who are working with them informed about the big decisions, plans, and the state of the business. I would use Richard Branson of Virgin Group of Companies for this example. Virgin was struggling last year, especially the airline and some of its hotel lines and the cruise lines that they had shifted. But he was one of those people, I would say, in the large business community that exhibited a very strong leadership skill or will by constantly communicating with his employees, letting them know the financial state of the business so they can decide if they want to stay with the business, because they had to change their compensation plan because they were not making as much money as they were. They were literally barely staying afloat. So it's important for you as a small business owner to be transparent. When there are struggles, when you're not hitting your sales target or your partnership target or whatever it is, let the team take ownership. And this goes beyond remote work, but it's very particular when you don't have people staying together in a physical location to do work. Transparency and accountability is super important and can make or break your organization. Let me check the chat column to see if there are any comments. Let me know in the column, in the comment section below, if you have any questions or even other suggestions based on the areas that have been highlighted. So we're still talking about the key considerations, what you need to consider as a small business owner or a medium-sized business owner, or even a large organization when you're transitioning remotely. We just talked about accountability and transparency, and we are moving on to talk about the need to nurture a healthy organizational culture. When you're working remotely, things can get really heated and very sensitive because people are not seeing each other all the time to even understand the facial expression and other things that physical interaction allows them to do so. So you need to ensure that you as a leader is intentional and you make your intentions known that you want to brew an organizational culture that is healthy. So going remote doesn't mean you should expect your employees to get more work done. That's the first thing. Because they are working remotely doesn't mean you should expect them to work the whole day and answer your calls the whole day. That is not healthy. You don't want to be a toxic leader who also makes your team members feel compelled to do work even when it's not time for them to do work or in inconvenient situations. You need to exercise empathy. You need to exercise a high level of emotional intelligence. You also need to do away with micromanagement. You need to learn to trust people that you have assigned or you have dedicated or you have agreed to work with. If you cannot trust your team members, then literally it's so counterproductive and it doesn't show, it's not sustainable, it's not healthy. You also need to ensure that you nurture a culture of respect and integrity. If you commit to do something, or a team member or a team leader commits to do something, the team should hold that person accountable. If you are a leader, you committed to do something, you're not able to get it done, communicate to your team why you are not able to do that and share with them the challenges just the same way you expect them to give you regular reports. You also need to respect people, respect their time, respect the boundaries they have set, and ensure that you do not interrupt people during meetings or belittle people based on things that are not even necessary. It's super important. Now, we also need to pay attention to mental health. We are echo entrepreneurs, especially the people on this call, or at least not just the people on this call, but the people that Ways to Create is serving. So I believe that eco entrepreneurship goes beyond environmental issues, but also ethical issues. So how are you ensuring that you create a workspace or a culture of work that pays attention to the possibility of self-isolation? You need to create activities as a team leader to ensure that your team feels connected even in the virtual space. So you need to invest your time to learn about team building exercises that can foster that spirit of, I would say, collaboration and togetherness, because it's very important. Also, you need to have a plan on how you intend to build a community and plan physical meetup events. Because your company is a fully remote company or is a hybrid organization, doesn't mean that 24/7 from January to December, everything you're going to be doing is physical. People need to have a sense of touch. I think touch is actually one of the senses in humans naturally that keeps people well connected. And touch doesn't necessarily mean you're touching somebody. It literally means you have a physical sort of interaction with that person. So create and be intentional about creating and encouraging your team members who work in similar cities, in the same cities or the same geographical location to meetups. Let your company also, should you decide to go fully remote, create a culture of having a company-wide retreat or a departmental-wide retreat. Encourage your team members in the same city to meet up. Adopt regular virtual co-working. I have virtually co-worked with people from Russia, from the United States, from Europe, that we have worked on projects. Sometimes we could literally turn on our cameras for hours. It helps people to feel very connected, and it can also reduce some of the, I would say, threats that remote work causes in organizations. Now, we cannot talk about transitioning into remote work without talking about the people that you're actually going to be working with. So you need to ensure that you have the right people. You hire the right people, you transition or upskill the existing people who are ready and they understand the vision that you have for the business to transition into remote work, and ensure that you continue to, I would say, reorient your staff and your team members and your whatever people that you work with on a regular basis. People who work effectively, or companies who are able to work effectively remotely, are companies that have high performance as team members, people who are self-starters, people who are initiative takers, people who don't need to wait to be told what to do, people who are personally accountable, and they feel and they understand that the freedom and the flexibility that comes with remote work is something that they do not want to let go of. So they find joy in the work that they do, and they take responsibility and action towards the work that has been committed. So it's really important for you, as you're listening to this, to evaluate and ask yourself, how good, not how good, how prepared is my team? What am I committed to do to ensure that I brew a culture within my team that allows them to be able to deliver on the value they need to deliver, irrespective of our geographical location? So we're going to move on to, we're getting towards the end of this session, but we still have a lot more to go. So in relation to human resources, what are you doing to build the capacity of the people that are working with you? So have you identified the learning needs of your team? Have you made the accurate provision to make sure that if somebody is visually impaired, or someone is someone who learns with videos and less with reading the books, you create a knowledge management system for the team to be able to thrive irrespective of their different learning needs? Do you have someone responsible, whether it's in human resources or whatever department it is that you have, that ensures that on a regular basis, they identify the areas that your team need to be upskilled on, need to be reskilled on, and perhaps even foster, I would say, a spirit of co-sharing, encouraging your employees to those who are ahead, to mentor those who are coming up. What type of culture are you brewing for career development for people that are working with you? It's more important to do this, or it's very critical for us to pay attention to this as we are seeking to transition into remote work, or as we have transitioned into remote work in our business. We also need to be able to clearly identify career opportunities and define clearly what is a progression plan. If somebody starts working with you today, what are the stages of career growth that exist? Are you allowing them to be innovative, to be entrepreneurs within your business? Are you allowing them to share ideas on how new products can be launched or new initiatives can be added into your value proposition? It's super, super important. Also, it's very important, or I would say, after all of the things I have said, we cannot do remote work without having the right tech tools in order for us to work effectively. So have you paid attention to some of the following? What are the physical tools that your team needs to be able to thrive? Internet, computer, insurance, home, backup power sources if you're in Africa in particular. Ghana, we shout out to you, but many African countries don't have stable electricity. So you have to consider this if you are somewhere. I don't want to mention any country's name, but you have to consider these things if you are looking to transition into remote work, and make the adequate provision as a business to ensure that your employees and your team are able to thrive while working remotely. Secondly, what is the IT security and infrastructure that you have to ensure that your data is protected? How are you ensuring that the passwords of your platforms are not shared by everybody? So have you learned to use password management systems like LastPass, 1Password, etc., to manage and to ensure that only those who have access to certain information get access to that information? 3, communication. What platforms are you using and what platforms are you learning? So when we talk about the career development, remember that some of these tools may be new to you and you would need to commit time or hire someone like Fadila and her team to train your team on the use of some of these tools. Also, collaboration. How are your team collaborating on projects? How are they sharing information? What spaces are they using? You need to ensure that they know how to use these platforms and they continue to be updated on the changes that are occurring and how these can affect the work that you do. What are you doing to manage the project? This is like one of the most important elements of remote work, project management. How are you ensuring that you're not guessing what X person is doing or Y person is doing? How are you ensuring that the tasks that have been committed or have been agreed to be committed to be done are actually being done within the set time that they have been agreed upon? So learn tools like Trello. Another thing I have to say is don't use multiple different tools just because you are going into remote work. So you want to learn all the tools. You don't need to learn all the tools. You can choose one, maximum of 2 tools based on the needs. Remember, based on the needs of the employees of the team members, to determine what tools to use. So don't confuse yourself and start adopting 6 different project management tools. Don't do that. Identify 1 or 2, train up your team on how to use it, and then grow with it. And most of these tools are similar to each other. It's just a difference in feature and maybe in the type of flexibility or integration that you get. What are the HR management tools that you are using? Even if you're not using any complicated tool, because these tools also come with money, but they have a lot of them that have free versions that you can literally work with them pretty good as a small business owner. So what tools are you using to ensure that from onboarding your employees to the existing teams that you have, people are happy? Remember, if you don't take care of your employees, you are literally in trouble. You don't expect to experience and to deliver an excellent customer experience when your employees are disgruntled or they're not satisfied. So how are you ensuring that you're building and you're using the right tools to be able to grow your business effectively? There are so many platforms that exist. We do well from time to time on Africans Living Fully to write about some of these tools, but you can literally Google them yourself and find the right resources for your business. Now, I'm going to come back to the chat button. Please let me know what questions you have. We have a couple of people on the line. I can see James from Stanbic Incubator. I can see Pascal, Wisdom, Ife. Engage with us in the comment section. Don't just let me be talking. You all. Let me know what are the key takeaways you are taking, what contributions you have to the conversation or the points that I've mentioned earlier, and just let us know something in the comment section. Secular Places, you can come back and perhaps try to engage the audience before I complete the rest of the presentation, because we are almost getting to the end of it.
Thank you so much, Fadila. This is really wow. Like, wow. I was just telling myself there are certain people I honestly wished they joined this session, because this would really have been helpful for them. But this is why we have it streaming live on YouTube. So it'll be there as a resource for anyone who's looking to learn how to build remote working structures for their businesses. So please, guys, this is the time to ask questions. So if you have to get Fadila on a regular day to answer your questions, you will pay plenty money, I assure you. So if I were you, please take advantage of this opportunity and ask questions. Anybody?
So while we're waiting on the question, I will wrap up the presentation and then we will take the questions as I went. So towards the as we are still talking about the key consideration, things you need to put in place to ensure that you are able to effectively transition into a remote work that works best for your business. I remember we have shared earlier that it's important for you to determine how do you want to work remotely? What system do you want to adopt? Do you want to go fully remote? Do you want to go hybrid? What element of remote work do you want to adopt? Simply managing your team remotely? Or perhaps do you want to do you want to expand the way you deliver your product or your service? So are you looking at building digital products? Are you looking at exploring remote ways of rendering your service so you can have more freedom and flexibility? You need to define what your motivation is. We talked about all of these, and now we're on the 13th consideration for you to look at when you are working remotely or looking to work remotely. All of these are what I would say a part of the remote work policy. So you need to create a remote work policy. However, I will say this from a place of experience, having worked with some clients and even personally in my own business and the institutions that I lead. Creating a remote work policy, I will say, on a very practical basis, comes from experience. You're going to be refining the policy. You may not have a policy from the onset. In fact, I didn't have a policy from the onset. What we are doing is implementing the various key considerations in different phases and documenting that as our remote work policy, learning about what other companies in a similar space are doing if they are working remotely. When they are working remotely, what are the best practices? How are they doing all of the things I have talked about? And can we apply that practically to our geographical location or to our type of business? So a remote work policy, I would say, is different from one organization to the other based on the size, your priority areas, what type of structure you want to build, what type of service you are rendering. But in the general sense, your remote work policy should include detailed information as to how you intend to do the work that you're doing. How are you going to manage the team and ensure productivity? How are you going to appraise the performance of your team? How are you going to measure? What is the basis for the measurement? How are you going to compensate, motivate your team in order for them to deliver on the value proposition or the promise that you have for the community or the clientele that you serve? Secondly, what is your communication procedure? It's super important, like we have earlier shared, for these to be documented. So the remote work policy is like a policy document or a manual that you have for your business. You need to share the collaboration tools and the guidelines and the plan that you have. How do you want to ensure accountability, not only on the part of the team members, but on the part of the management? Are you adopting a management style that is transparent? If so, what does transparency look like? What is the responsible management practices that each team leader needs to uphold? What are they? Detailed information on what that is, so that when a new person who comes into your organization comes in and you share that policy with them, they're able to comprehend how you're able to work remotely. Also, what are the meeting times, the location, what are the tools that you're using? What is your hiring and onboarding process? Is so important. This is something that I'm personally learning, and I continue to seek for help from experts in this particular field. It's so important for you to not just hire the right people, but ensure that you create an environment that encourages the people you have to become better at not just their work, but better human beings. Then at their work, then you can be able to offer value or maximize the value that your customers or your clientele gets. How are you going to resolve conflicts and disputes that will arise? What are the legal considerations that you performance and your financials on a daily basis, depending on the type of business you do? In fact, I think let me not say every business, but most businesses make money on a daily basis. What is the financial management platform? What is the financial management guideline procedures? What principles are you using? How are you ensuring that every single transaction that happens, you have a dashboard, even if it's a simple Excel, where that is recorded, is so important. So your remote work policy involves so much more than what I can share on these particular training sessions. So I encourage you to also do your own research and create a policy that works best for you in your industry based on your priorities. Second to the last, you need to determine how you will manage revenue and sales. Guys, we're talking about business here. Even if it's social enterprise, how are you going to make the money? How are you going to track the money that you are getting from your business? Remember, I told you, remote work is not about just managing your team remotely and that's it. Remote work is about managing the business remotely, managing the business from anywhere you are in the world. So if you don't have information in relation to your expenses, in relation to your income, in relation to so many other financial metrics, if you're producing a product, your cost of sales, if you are what you call it, your overhead cost, if you're running a hybrid system, comparing that will give you a full idea, not just a full idea, a full backing to be able to determine the best strategies that work for your business to be able to thrive. So do you have a central and automated funnel that manages from when the customer learns about your products to when they actually give you a call in and when you render the service and you send them a feedback? What are the clear-cut time frames in terms of your revenue, not revenue engineering, in your sales funnel? What times? Do you have a cutoff time? If you're running a remote business and you're having sales coming in from all over the world, or you're having an e-commerce store, what is a cutoff time for your transactions per day? Banks do this. If they can do this, it means that your own tiny, small, little business can do it. It doesn't matter. You're doing $100, $5, $20, or $50,000, or even $1 million. The earlier you can adopt the right strategies and build the right habits for your business, the earlier you are setting yourself to be able to scale, and more importantly, to be able to thrive in the long run when you're able to grow the business to a higher or to a bigger extent, I would say. What is the transaction management and central communication channels? How do you perform your KYCs? I was on a panel earlier this week, no, not this week, last week, with Foster Awintiti of Hacklab Foundation, and he was talking about banks now doing KYCs digitally. They have to. If I'm not in Ghana or I'm not in Ivory Coast and I have a bank in Switzerland and they tell me that I have to wait until I get back to Switzerland before I go and operate my account, or before a certain query that I have sent to them is able to be validated, then it means that that bank is going to go out of business. So what strategies are you putting in place from your service processes, your product development processes, to ensure that you put remote elements to ensure that your customers, it doesn't matter where they are, you are able to validate, authenticate, and give them access to the service? If you're not thinking that way, my friend, in the next few years, you'll be out of business, because more innovative businesses are going to come and take over your business because you have refused to adapt to the principles of the future of work, which a key element of is remote work. What is the level of authorization? What's the daily reconciliation time? So all of these are considerations. In fact, I even had more. I didn't know I had more. You have to create a stakeholder engagement plan. How do you intend to be connected to your customers, to the government, to the other stakeholders? I've forgotten all my business studies. How do you intend to engage with them while working remotely? Doesn't mean because you don't have an office space, so you're not going to engage with the stakeholders that exist in your community. You're not going to give back to the community that you are gaining value from. How do you intend to do that? You need to consider this as you're transitioning into remote work. Those of you who are service-based companies, when we talked yesterday, they talked about fair trade, your supply chain. What are you doing to ensure that the key people in your supply chain are happy and you are equitable and you're sustainable in your approach? You have to have an engagement plan while you are working remotely or transitioning into remote work. You also need to perform a cost-benefit analysis of your decision. Ultimately, everything that I said will have a financial implication. Some may not have financial implication, but there is a cost involved in it. So quantify both the financial cost and the non-financial cost so that you can be able to make the best decision in your remote work transition. So should you go, and doing this will also help you determine if you should go fully remote or you should run a hybrid system. And if you're going to do that, you can have a clear picture of what that means in terms of money in the long run. So last but not the least, we are now going to talk about the actual transition process. Having considered everything that I have shared and so much more that is out there for you to discover, beyond expectations, considerations, and creating a solid remote work policy, you need to test your remote work strategy. You have created all of these plans, you've engaged with your stakeholders, you've managed expectations, you have put a communication plan, collaboration plan, blah, blah, blah. You need to test. If you don't test it, you don't know it. It's as simple as that. So you need to determine a trial period for the transition. You need to also be able to determine what are the metrics, what are the softwares and the tools, what are the policies, the trainings, the learning needs that need to be adapted, and how does that ultimately affect the bottom line, the service that you are rendering? How does that affect the customer experience? You need to have a total evaluation of that. Test the systems, test the processes, test the strategies, and see, and more importantly, listen to the feedback so that you can refine it, and then ultimately you can be able to create a remote work policy and plan that works best for you. And know this, the transition process is gradual. We are not, you don't have to be in a rush to sharply, literally transition into remote work. Everything takes time. And the more that you see this as a continuous, the more that you see this as a continuous improvement process or activity, the better you are able to build a remote work or the better you're able to adopt remote work and build a remote business that is right for your model. So start with a department or two, split into teams, experiment, adjust, get feedback, let the cycle continue. Pay attention to your performance metrics. All of these things that we are talking about, how is it ultimately affecting your sales, your revenue? If you are so enterprise and you're about training and empowering people, how is the transformation and the impact of the training that you are doing? You have to pay attention to the bottom line. Productivity and project completion rate, how is that being affected? Your customer satisfaction, you simply need to keep adjusting and making the right, not even right, you simply need to keep adjusting and transforming your process of transitioning into remote work. So that's it from me to you today. At this point, I will welcome questions. If you have them, inputs, let me know your experience working remotely. What is a key takeaway? In fact, if you don't ask any question, let us know in the chat column below. What is a key takeaway from this particular session? What would you want us to even improve upon? I'm sure that there is going to be some feedback formed by Circular Places to be able to evaluate the impact of what we have done. So in the meantime, while we're waiting on your questions and answers, my name is Fadila, and these are some of my ways in which you can engage with me. I do a lot of pro bono speaking engagement, advisory and training for startup ecosystems, incubation hubs and companies. And for paid services, brokerage services, et cetera, remote work transition consultant. So if you want more, and perhaps you want to get more on how you can be able to do this on a more practical basis, feel free to reach out to me using any of the email addresses that have been shared. So at this point, send in your questions and we'll be happy to answer them. Circular Places, back to you guys.
Wow, thank you so much, Fadila. This has really been exciting. I don't know about for others, but this has really, I personally have learned a lot, and I'm really worried that you guys are not asking questions, because this is a very important part of running business now, especially with COVID. All over the world, places like Canada, they're going back to another wind of COVID, and it's really crazy, and people are really opting for remote working as a complete process for their business, as compared to having the hybrid. So please, this is the time to ask questions or contributions, or probably share what you've learned so far before we pull up the feedback poll. Who wants to go? Pascal, Wisdom, FA, James, anything you would like to share, kindly just unmute yourself and you can share with us. If you can't, you can just go on and share your questions on the chat. Okay. And you can also try and raise your hand virtually if you'd like me to call upon you, but if not, Mr. Pavis, you were asking a question before.
That has to do with the pool.
Oh, right. Okay. You wanted to find out how you could participate in the poll. Fadila, I think you spoke a little bit about the poll. I think you spoke a little bit about the poll, but I think maybe you can speak on it a little bit more as to the questions you asked in the first poll. And I see a question.
Okay.
Please go on, sir.
I have a question, but I don't know whether she's the right person, but maybe anyone can answer. Okay. Now, if in terms of transitioning into the remote work environment, is it advisable for the company to allow the employees to use their own devices? I think I heard her say in the US, you are to provide one workstation for, but in Africa and Ghanaian context, is it advisable that people use their own machines? Will she advise that people should use their? What is the advantage of people using their own machine vis-a-vis maybe the company providing a machine? And then in terms of the internet, when there is an opening, that is where people can penetrate and hack into your system. So working from remotely, how can internet access be secured such that somebody doesn't mistakenly leave themselves open for fraudsters or hackers to get into the company's cybersecurity?
Okay, thank you for
Fadila, I think you can probably take the first question. And just to draw Mr. Pavy's attention to, so this 8 days session is just the first part of the sessions that will continue to run under the Secular Place initiative. And I think one of the questions that have come up quite a number of times is on cybersecurity. So in the next part, we're going to have experts in the social chat to talk. We're having the social chat that will start from next week. That will talk a little bit about cybersecurity and working and all of that stuff. But Fadila, please, over to you.
Okay, I would say the best practice is for you to provide the machines that your employees are using, depending on the level of, I would say, not level of privacy, depending on how sensitive the data that they're dealing in is. So that's my recommendation. But if you're a small business and you have a small team and it means you don't have maybe a budget to do that, then you need to have a conversation with the staff, and then you also need to provide softwares like anti-malicious softwares for your staff, and then agree with them because it's their personal devices for some sort of an audit to be done on it. So it's a bit tricky, and I think the session on the cybersecurity will be more helpful because they are like IT security experts. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Fadila. Mr. Pavies, hope this is clear enough.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. FAO, you raised your hand before now. I don't know if you still have that question or it's part of the questions Mr. Pavies has asked. Please, if you wouldn't mind, you can ask your question now.
Oh, hi, sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. I'm actually moving and listening at the same time. I didn't actually have a question, but I just thought it was quite insightful, and I was just going to say thank you for the information and the delivery as well. It was quite interesting. The only thing I was going to ask is that when we're speaking about remote working and how to really monitor your people, how well can that work? Because sometimes you've left people thinking that they're supposed to do what they do. How do you ensure that you get the same value if you don't watch them closely? Thank you.
Very good question. I would like to give you a few tips. So the first thing is about clearly having a conversation, whether physically or virtually, and agreeing on a regular basis the set of deliverables. If you don't agree on the set of deliverables, there will be assumptions. And I speak from experience. I am not having a perfect remote work system, even in my own business. It is still evolving. And I say this so people don't see, oh, there are some organizations that they are 100% perfect. No, you have to discuss expectations. You need to adopt a project management tool. Or even if it's as simple as a WhatsApp group that on a weekly basis, you agree, these are the deliverables. You are doing X, Y, Z. This role or this particular task is a repetitive task. You do it every Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So let's say if somebody is a marketing manager. No, marketing is even too big. Let's say that person is a social media person in your business. Now, how often are they supposed? Do you have a Facebook group that needs to be engaged with every week? Do they need to accept people into a Facebook group? Do they need to share information on a weekly basis? They need to send a message on a newsletter. What are the deliverables? So you need to go through that painful, I will say, task of identifying this activities that before, when you were in a physical space, you didn't document them. So you need to document the processes for each particular role and determine the role, the activities that are repetitive, and then there are activities that are project-based. So maybe a client that doesn't last an entire lifetime. You can have a client maybe for 20 years or 25 years or whatever, but it's hard to see people staying with you for so many years. So the activities that are constant, identify those. Then for every project-based activity, identify the key activities that need to be done every single week or every single 2 days, depending on what works best for you. And then that your WhatsApp group, or if it's an Asana, everybody checks in every day. If you don't do that, HR will take care of you. It's as simple as that. There will be, how do you call it? There will be appraisals, techniques. And then if you have employees that are simply not respecting, or team members who are simply not respecting the rule, not even rules, committing to the agreed deliverables, then you know that you need to have a different type of conversation with them. And even if it's a team leader who is not doing that and you are the person who is working as a team member, you should be able to call your team leader to order to ensure that everybody, so it's just about brewing that culture of accountability and ensuring that nobody is above the law. Even the boss of the business is not above the law, and somebody can call on him. And then you, as a team leader, need to ensure that you are transparent. Let your team members know that you are working. Sometimes when we are working in the office space, we can't necessarily do that. But when we're working remotely, we also need to, if we agree that we're going to be tracking progress on Asana, then you need to see that, okay, on a daily basis, she's doing X, Y, Z. You can also create a level of privacy as to projects that people need to know about and projects that people don't need to know about. So I think that's like the simple answer to that, but really it's in the implementation that will make the difference.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Beautiful. I think Fadila has really answered this 100%. I tell you, even the best of organizations, I think the Googles or the Microsoft have really not perfected this remote work. I don't think we can really be 100% because, especially if you're dealing with human beings, you understand that there are so many things that are likely to change. So let's take advantage of some of these nuggets that she's shared and make sure that we start utilizing it. The world is changing and changing rapidly. So if you think that, oh, you don't think that remote working is for you, trust me, the situations of things that are happening will force you to. So start building capacity now so that when the time comes for you to transition, everything will be seamless. Thank you so much, Fadila, on behalf of the Ways to Create team, as well as the MasterCard Foundation. We thank you so much for making the time to run the session. This has been very, very exciting. Fadila is back on Friday with a very interesting, very, very interesting topic that I think a lot of you are interested in. And she'll be talking a little bit about financing. So those of you who want to know how you can manage your finance, she's also a financial management expert. So please do well. She'll be talking about managing your business financing on Friday, on the 26th from 2 to 4 p.m. And that actually will be our last session for the first ECHO Business Capacity Program. We are also back tomorrow with 2 amazing sessions. One is at 2 to 4 and the other is at 4 to 6. The one for 2 to 4 will be having Dr. Bruce Dumas, who will be talking about building a workable entrepreneurial skill. I would say I've been a blessing of of having Dr. Bruce as a coach and a mentor for so long. And I hope that we can all make the time to join that session tomorrow and learn some very pragmatical, hands-on things that we can use to better our businesses for it to grow as eco-entrepreneurs. The second session, which is by Connie Smith, will be talking about strategies for recurring sales processes. And that will be from 4 to 6. So if you know you want to scale up your business beyond what it is now, because trust me, one way or the other, COVID has affected our businesses in different ways. We can't lie to ourselves. Even the biggest of corporations and the small of corporations has really been affected. So please join the session to learn how you can increase your skills. And she would really make this very practical and hands-on. Also try and invite your teams. I mostly see team leads here, but some of, like, for example, the session Fadila just did today, a lot and lots of your team members can benefit from it. So please make sure you share this opportunity, that it's for free. They don't have to pay. So why not take advantage of the opportunity? So just a reminder again, please join Fadila this Friday, 26th of March. We'll be talking about managing business finances. And then tomorrow we are back at 2 to 4 with Dr. Bruce Dumas, as well as Ms. Connie Smith. Thank you all once again. I would pull up the poll for feedback now before you all start running away. Please do well to give us feedback on how beneficial this session has been to you. Also follow us on our social media pages at Secular Place AF. Please, technical team, kindly put that in the chat. Let's engage in the conversation. You can also go there and ask questions. Most of the speakers are right there on our chat box. So don't worry about it. They will do well to answer your questions if you miss out. If you have any information, you can also email us at info@waystocreate.com. So please feel free to ask us more questions, but at the same time, try and engage with us on social media at Secular Place AF. Tag us, share with your friends to join the sessions. I also mentioned that these sessions are also live on YouTube at Secular Place. So please go on YouTube, subscribe, link, because this is not just the only sessions that will be uploading. There are lots of exciting programs to help eco-entrepreneurs generally to impact, to learn more. It's very important. I feel like we can't talk enough about the importance of enabling eco-entrepreneurship, not just in Ghana, but across Africa. Our ecosystem is one that people are really underrating, but globally, eco-entrepreneurship, the word sustainability is skyrocketing and thriving, and we all have the opportunities to become the leading light in that space, and that's why we are going out of our way to curate the sessions, to develop the Secular Place platform so that you all can learn, develop, grow, and scale. And we will be proud to know and to agree that we're part of your change journey. Thank you all once again. My name is Chinenwa Okorono. I'm the founder and managing director of the Waystocreate Hub. The Waystocreate Hub is the convener of this training in partnership with the MasterCard Foundation. We appreciate you and we thank you. See you all tomorrow at 2 p.m. Goodbye.
Bye.
Being on a virtual team and working remotely can present unique challenges that aren't faced by team members who are collocated. Whether in an office location or at home, there are no managers or other teammates sitting nearby to consult with or provide immediate responses or support. Likewise, there's no one looking over your shoulder, keeping you focused. One of the challenges, then, separation of work and home. Working from home has some freedom over your work times, making it easier to meet other demands on your time. You also don't have to waste time and money commuting. However, if there is no enforced 9-to-5 schedule, it can be hard to maintain a proper balance. Often, at-home workers end up either working too few hours or, conversely, putting in an unhealthy amount of overtime. It's essential to put boundaries in place. The trick is to stay productive and minimize distractions, as well as limiting the potential for overwork and burnout. For many, creating a designated work area is key to separating work and home life. Your workspace should have a clear physical boundary, and your work should stay within that space. It should be a work area that's not susceptible to disruptions. If you don't have access to a suitable area at home, choose an appropriate external site, but one where you can avoid distractions. Working in coffee shops, for example, may seem attractive, but a local library is probably a better choice. In either case, consider that working remotely nearly always requires an internet connection. Working virtually in a public place often mandates the requirement for VPN or similar secure connectivity. Whether working from home or a distant office, all virtual team members face the challenge of dealing with lack of everyday face-to-face communication and the team spirit that attends it. Working remotely, even in an otherwise busy office, can be isolating. Virtual teams miss out on the informal everyday interactions that collocated teams often take for granted. Things like chatting in the break room and discussing problems on a coffee run. They miss out on nonverbal cues that indicate how their ideas and suggestions are being received. They can go days without contact, leading to feelings of isolation, and virtual employees who feel isolated are less likely to contribute to the team, eroding both team spirit and team trust. And this can be even more difficult by the challenges posed by cultural differences. Miscommunication can be rife in virtual teams, but even more so when the team spans different cultures. A message that seems succinct to a team member in one country may come across as rude to a colleague from a different culture. Virtual leaders should recognize and capitalize on team diversity, perhaps building a team profile sharing each team member's experience, expertise, and personal information. To minimize potential conflicts, virtual teams should agree on ground rules for interactions that align everyone's expectations, like a maximum response time to emails, agreed technology for sharing and updating files, or guidelines on appropriate language in emails. But ultimately, regular daily communication helps counter these challenges. Cultivating a strong one-to-one relationship with your team leader, and if possible, other teammates, helps mitigate them. It's good for morale and team unity if all team members regularly communicate about their progress, and where possible, work together in partnerships. Even so, there is an isolation factor with working remotely that must be taken into account. It's important to make the effort to stay connected and informed, to make your presence known. Research by the Harvard Business Review shows that a lack of closeness inhibits the formation of trust, connection, and mutual purpose, three necessary ingredients of a healthy team. It's important to be willing to take it on yourself to ensure that being out of sight doesn't lead to being left out.
Important to understand the difference between an actual business model and the sustainable business model. Now, actual business model is simply, working around how I'm going to make money at the end of the year, right? How I'm going to continue to empower my business models to grow, scale up my initiatives, continue to pay my staff where I don't go bankrupt. But a sustainable business model is one that is very much conscious about what kind of products do I have? Is it like, for example, there are people who process palm oil, right? They process palm oil by the river, and at the end of the day, they pour all of the chaff into the ocean. They don't care about how it depletes the environment. Those who are in the mining industries, they mine, now we're already seeing the galamsey issue affecting our water bodies and all. They don't care about the environment as far as they continue to make money. But a sustainable business model ensures that 360, you take care of your environment while still providing solution, while still providing value, while still, making your money. You're also enabling and, supporting the environment. So that is the concept of a sustainable business model.
B Corp is a certificate which proves that as a business, you have considered more than just the profits. And then here we have growth mosaic who have worked quite closely with us in the past, and Peg Africa, who are a solar business here as well. So that is like a bit of a broad overview on what a B Corp is.
Sustainable packaging is simply packaging that over time reduces its environmental footprint. Okay, and there's a confusion between sustainable packaging and sustainable package design. You understand? You can, if you tag your product as eco-friendly, it's not necessarily sustainable. Let me explain. If you package your product in, let's say, paper packaging, and the paper package is really not sourced ethically, even though the paper package is eco-friendly, it's not ethical, it's not sustainable, because trees are being cut to produce paper. But if the paper packaging that you utilize is actually made from reclaimed paper waste from these book producing factories, then your packaging has been sustainably designed.
Fair trade prefers to support disadvantaged businesses or producers than to support advantaged businesses. So likewise, they expect our business to focus on disadvantaged people than advantaged people. Okay? What do we see in Ghana? Can someone tell me what we see in Ghana about our business? What do we see in Ghana? In Ghana, we prefer giving advantage to people who already have the opportunity, while we left the disadvantage behind. So this is what fair trade looks at. Fair trade always puts people first. There's a term we use. They say people, the planet before profit. So we put people first and the environment, then we think about profit.
Thank you.